Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. This is Zach over at NV Woodworks. So a couple weeks ago on the live stream, we did some experiments casting some thermal dust from solarcolordust.com. It's a color change based on temperature powder that you can add to resin. And we cast the blanks on the live stream, and I wanted to give the blanks, full cure time of about a week or so to sit and get fully cured up. Now it's time to see what the results are and turn some blanks and see how this, color change effect works in the final product. So let's get started. All right, guys, I'm super excited to see what the outcomes are of these experiments. I've been meaning to kind of play around with this thermal dust for quite a while now, just never got around to it until now. So what I did was I actually contacted Solar Color Dust and said, hey, do you guys have any samples, or is there any way that you could maybe send me some product so that I can test it out in a video and share with, my audience? And he said, yeah, no problem. So he hooked me up with a store credit. I picked out 4 different powders to try and use for this experiment. Basically it's thermal dust, which means that it's going to change color based on temperature. So I picked the ones that are heat activated. So there's 2 of them that are 2 colors, and they change color at 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And then I got a couple of them that have triple colors, and I believe if I'm not mistaken, it's like 82 degrees and 92 degrees is when they change colors to the different ones. They also have ones that are cold activated, and I can't remember what the number was, but I figured that heat activated would be a little bit more useful. 86 degrees, body heat should, if you're holding a pen, and that's what I had in mind for these tests. If you're holding a pen, your body heat should activate it, and you should get some cool results in your pen. So that's what I went with, is a couple of different heat activated ones. For the experiments, I tried a couple different things. When I was talking to Wolf about, how do these things work, he gave me a good starting point for how much powder to put in the resin, and he mentioned 1 gram per ounce of resin. So most of the blanks are using that ratio, but I also decided, let's try some different things out. So I decided to double it down, put 2 grams of powder per ounce of resin in some of the blanks. And I also tried, what happens if you add dye to it? Does that affect anything? Also, I added some mica powder to one of the blanks. So we got quite a few different little tests to see, how do these things work. In this video, what I'm going to do is just turn some, a bunch of pens. I'm not going to show all the footage of me turning every one of the pens. I'm going to kind of skip through, show some of the highlights. And then the majority is I want to see what the outcomes are and kind of discuss, what do I see? How did it turn out? And did things, affect anything? Did something work better? All that kind of stuff. So at the end of the video, we'll kind of go through the outcomes more than the turning part. But if you missed the live stream when we cast these, there's a replay up on my channel, and there's a link on the screen here down in the show notes. So you can go and see, what did we do when we actually cast these things? How did we make them? So that's available to check out if you would like to see that. But for now, let's get to some turning. One other thing, I'm probably just going to put it on music and kind of show you some fun turning highlights. But if there's anything that I stumble upon in the middle of turning this that I think that, you guys need to know about, if there's any problems, I'm going to stop the video and kind of explain that, and then we'll kind of continue on. And then, like I said, at the end of the video, we'll kind of wrap up and see, what was the outcome of these things? How do they look? So let's get to some turning. All right, we got them all turned up. Let's talk about some results. So we did a few different tests. We made some blanks just using what they recommended for the ratio for resin casting at 1 gram of powder per 1 ounce of resin. We made 3 blanks using that. We also tried adding more powder, so 2 grams per ounce of resin, just to see if it changed anything. Does it change quicker? Is it a more, saturated color or better looking or anything like that? And then the other thing we did was we added a little bit of pearl powder to 1, and we added just some Alumilite dye to 1, just to see if that did anything to it, if it was possible to use those. So the overall results, just comparing the 1 gram per ounce to the 2 gram per ounce blanks, they're exactly the same. I'm not really seeing any spectacular difference. The only issue is the more powder you're trying to stuff in the resin, the more clumpy it can get. So I actually wouldn't recommend doing that. It's not worth it. And even at the 1 gram per ounce of resin, it can be a little clumpy. There's a few of the blanks I didn't do a very good job, getting it fully mixed in. And I would recommend if you're using this, I would add a little bit of powder at a time. Mix it in and make sure that it's not clumping, then add a little bit more, rather than, I'm pretty sure on all of them, I just kind of dumped the entire amount that I needed into the cup and tried to mix it up. So I think a little bit at a time, and you'll probably get even better results and remove the clumpiness that could happen. So what can happen is the powder just kind of, didn't really actually get mixed into the resin, so you have little spots. Like I said, I think that's probably avoidable if you just don't dump it all in at once. Now, I'm actually curious, can you put less powder per gram, per ounce of resin? So sometime we didn't do this test, but I think I want to try out using less, maybe half a gram per ounce of resin, and see if you get the same effects, if it's still, vibrant, I guess, the colors. So curious about that. The other test that we did, though, we added a little bit of pearl to 1 and we added some dye to the other. I would probably recommend not doing that. The one that we added, the Alumilite, we added a little bit of Alumilite red dye to. It doesn't want to change color at this point. Even hitting it with a really high heat, it doesn't do anything. So I think dye is probably not a good way to go. The pearl, I'm still getting a color change. It's a little bit more muted because I'm guessing because there's pearl, there's stuff in there kind of blocking some of it. The other thing you got to keep in mind, though, is this blank was supposed to go from red to yellow. And, if you add red powder in, so when it does turn yellow, all I'm getting is orange-ish. It's kind of like a rust color. So it's going from kind of a reddish, to a rust. So it's going to alter things. I probably wouldn't even recommend adding pearls to this because the reason we add pearls is to make it look kind of pretty, right? You want that kind of pearliness. And it's really not that striking. It doesn't look that amazing adding that stuff. It's not very pearly in the first place. So, considering you're not going to know what the results are going to be anyway, I'd probably stay away from that. Now, one thing to keep in mind, how quickly the color change occurs is going to depend on a couple of factors. The first one being how much powder did you use? But for all these tests, that 1 gram of powder per ounce of resin, that seems to be a really good number. Everything worked just fine. I'd like to try and see if we can get away with less, but that's a good number to go with. It should work pretty well especially for the thicknesses that we're talking about. Number 2 is going to be how thick is the material itself. The pen blanks themselves, before they were, drilled, cut, turned down, all that stuff, they took a little bit longer because you have to heat up a larger mass. Once we turned the pen blanks down, they changed quicker because you don't have to heat it up as much, or heat up as much material, let's say. Now, the third thing is going to be, what is the ambient temperature? And this actually, depending on what you're doing and where you're at, you might want to really think about this because, I'm in a shop that's about 66 to 68 degrees, let's just say an average of 67 degrees. To get that up to, in the mid 80s, to get the color change on these things, holding it in your hand, if that blank started at 67 or, whatever the ambient temperature is, 15 to 20 degrees, it's going to take a while, 5 to 10 minutes probably to get it to actually change. I kind of did some testing and it was about 5 to 10 minutes or so in my shop. Now, if it's 75 degrees, holding it in your hand is going to probably turn it pretty quick. Once I heated these things up with the heat gun and then it dropped down to, below that first color change, holding it in your hand, it worked really fast, but it's starting out close to the threshold. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, on the other, right now it's kind of winter for us, and so the worry is, oh, it's kind of starting too cold. Well, if it's 100 degrees, if you're in Las Vegas and it's 100 degrees out, you're not going to get any color change. You need to cool it off. So you need to kind of think about, what's the ambient temperature, and that's going to affect how these things work. I just wanted to kind of cover that. Now, going off of the thin thing, the thinner the material, the faster everything's going to heat up and all that. I think it'd be kind of fun to use this almost like a paint. So, rather than like turning the material, turn something else and then, add some of this powder to resin and then basically paint it on. So I'm thinking, maybe something like you turn a wood bowl and then basically paint a layer, kind of a thin layer of this stuff on the bowl. I think that'd be pretty cool. I think you'd get some pretty cool effects, and it should, again, depending on the ambient temperature and all that, but it should kind of turn faster, I would say. So something to kind of keep in mind and play with down the road. A couple other thoughts, some of these colors I like better than the others. My favorite out of all the ones that we did are the purple to teal. I think that maybe it's turquoise to purple, whatever those two are in the heat change. It's a dual color. Those ones, both colors are really, they look really good, and they're so much different that they really pop. So that's my favorite out of all the ones that we did today. The triple color change ones, they were okay. I got kind of mixed results on that. One of them they call black to violet. What does it say? Black, violet, pink. Okay, this is not black. This is maroon that it starts out as. And then it goes to kind of a purple-y color. It just kind of slightly changes, and then it goes to pink. So you might want to watch, which colors you get, because some of the descriptions may not be very descriptive about what they're actually doing. Now, I did get the black, orange, yellow to work pretty well, depending on, I kind of needed to get the blank heated up to the right, to a regular room temperature starting point. Then I could get it to kind of turn orange, but we're not talking like, tiger stripe orange. It's kind of like sort of burnt orange, brown. So I'm not sure that the triple colors are like the best way to go. I don't think that you're going to get super amazing striations of 3 different colors, especially for pens. I would probably stick with maybe the 2 colors. I think you're going to get the best results, especially if you can get one that's, like that purple to teal is like pretty dark purple, and then it turns to a light color. I think that's going to be a striking combination for pens and things where it's really going to pop out at you. So overall, I want to play with this a little bit more. I think there's lots of opportunities where you can do something cool with it. Don't forget, guys, there's still a discount code going on. There's I'll put the code, what you have to enter on the screen here. Actually, it's Dunkin Junk, DUNKINJUNK. I almost forgot. So head over to solarcolordust.com if you want to pick some up. Enter that code. I think it saves you 5%, something like that. So if you're interested in trying it out, may as well save some money. Yeah, so I guess that's about it. It was pretty fun messing around with these things. It's been on my list for a long time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If this is your first time on my channel, we do all kinds of resin casting projects, tips and tricks, and experiments around here, just like this one. So if this is something that you're interested in, definitely hit that subscribe button so you get notified when new videos get posted. And don't forget, I do live streams every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Those are kind of more long form, kind of hangout things where we're doing some experiments and kind of showing what's going on. But you get to see the entire process start to finish. So definitely check that out if you're interested in that and you can make it. And then I put the replays up later if you can't make it live. But definitely a fun time to hang out during the live stream. The chat's always wily. And last but not least, if you're thinking about getting into resin casting but you're not really sure where to begin, check out my ebook, The Beginner's Guide to Resin Casting. It answers all those beginner questions like, what do I need to get started? What resin should I use? How does it all work? It'll help you get over that initial learning curve so you can get into the shop and start making some cool stuff with resin. It's available on my website if you're interested. There's a link on the screen here and down in the show notes as well. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.